Hello, I'm Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Literary Love 123, where I read, discuss, and analyze horror through a literary lens. This is my weekly wrap up for the week ending in February 7th. I have some unexpected surprises this week. I cannot wait to talk to you about all of them, which I will do right after this quick intro. I want to start by talking about one of the books that I'm reading for the I Love Black Horror Readathon hosted by Kelsee. I'll link her channel down below. That book is My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due. Tananarive Due is one of my favorite authors of all time, and this is one of her backlist books that I have not gotten to yet. So I've made it through part 1, and I am a couple of chapters into part 2. So I want to talk about this, but it's going to be a bit challenging to talk about it without spoilers. But the story centers around Jessica, who is a married reporter. She has a daughter, the age of 5, named Kira, and her husband is named David. So Jessica is a reporter in Florida. She's investigating nursing home abuse and deaths, and I feel like a lot of her character is patterned after Tananarive Due because Tananarive Due herself was a reporter in Florida. So I appreciate getting that sort of aspect to the story. So also I want to mention Jessica's husband, David, is maybe not exactly who he seems to be. He may or may not be someone with eternal life. And for this reason, he's trying to protect that secret. And he does something pretty horrible to try to protect his secret. It is really interesting so far. So I'll talk about a couple of things that I have tabbed that wouldn't be spoilers. Now, I want to say there are a lot of aspects to the character of Jessica that I can relate to. One of them is this first thing. Let's give it until morning, she'd said. Now those words were ringing in Jessica's head with their stupidity. Again, she'd hoped to make something better by just ignoring it, hoping it would fix itself. She did it when her car made unfamiliar noises, when she got phone messages she didn't want to face, when she felt a strange ache or pain after a mishap. And I just feel the same way, that ignoring and denial. And I feel like a lot of that aspect of Jessica's character is going to come into play as we go throughout this novel. So another passage I tabbed, and I'll try not to talk about all of them because I have tabbed a lot, because if you've read Tananarive Due, she has a lot of writing that you want to tab. So she mentioned here talking about Prometheus, and this is from the perspective of David, Jessica's husband. Prometheus was a better mythological soulmate. He was in chains, his innards picked out by an eagle, watching with disdain as his flesh again and again grew back to be freshly destroyed. Always, loss had found him again, its talons and beak riving his liver, his heart, his soul. He would be forever stripped, reborn, stripped. So, first of all, I love any allusion to mythology. Secondly, the way that Tananarive Due wrote this allusion just is a perfect way to encapsulate, in my opinion, what it would be like to live forever. Because, of course, if you have eternal life, you are constantly going to suffer because the people around you that you love do not also have that eternal life. So I feel like that's going to be another important theme as we go along. What does it mean to live eternally? And that's really all I want to say right now, even though I have a lot of tabs. I'm only a little ways into it, and I feel like anything else I said would be spoiler. If you are interested, after I finish this book, I will do a spoiler-filled review and discussion. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. And the next book I want to talk about, I actually have an audio book that I'm listening to for it now, but I am loving it so much that I have ordered a physical copy. And that book is A Phoenix First Must Burn, edited by Patrice Caldwell. So the quote, A Phoenix First Must Burn, comes from Octavia Butler in her parable series, Parable of the Sower. And I think the second one is Parable of the Talents. Just want a quick mention here. The May selection for the book club I run, the Literary Love Book Club, is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. So I hope you'll join me for that. But now let's get back to A Phoenix First Must Burn. So I want to show you this discussion guide that I found and printed from, I believe it's Penguin House. So I am so in love with this discussion guide. And first of all, I guess I should tell you a little bit more about what A Phoenix First Must Burn is about. This is about the book here. Evoking Beyonce's Lemonade for a teen audience, these authors, who are truly Octavia Butler's heirs, have woven together worlds to create a stunning narrative that centers Black women and gender nonconforming individuals. A Phoenix First Must Burn will take you on a journey from folk tales retold to futuristic societies and everything in between. Filled with stories of love and betrayal, strength and resistance, this collection contains an array of complex and true-to-life characters in which you cannot help but see yourself reflected. I am 4 stories into it, and I am actually going to stop my reading right now for a couple of reasons. First of all, I want that physical book so I can annotate. It's difficult to annotate audiobooks. I know you can do it, but I'm a little bit old school there, and I want something tangible in my hands that I can annotate. And a few of the other reasons are what we're about to get into now. But before we do that, I do want to read this quote from, I think this would be from Patrice Caldwell, who's the editor, but I just feel like this is something that I want to share from her point of view. One of the most fascinating and disturbing aspects of the colonized world is its ability to elevate narratives it wants centered and entered into the collective consciousness by incorporating them into the school system. This has resulted in the deliberate omission of much mythology, folklore, and stories of personal power belonging to those of women and the African diaspora. This book and its accompanying educator guide will support those in educational spaces and beyond, working to bring these stories from its margins to the center, more specifically, stories centering Black girls and women. It is an act of resistance, as Bell Hooks says, critically intervene in a way that challenges and changes. As you undertake this call to action, the intention of this guide is to serve as support and an invitation to work of critically intervening in what Kenyan writer and academic, I hope I say this name right, Ngigi wa Thiong'o refers to as decolonizing the mind. It is by no means an encyclopedic catalog of all that you will encounter within the pages of A Phoenix First Must Burn, 16 stories of Black girl magic, resistance, and hope. But it will give you many places to enter into an exploration of Black girlhood and its intersections with fantasy, science fiction, folklore, and so much more. So I am reading this book as part of the I Love Black Horror Readathon and also the Folklore February Readathon hosted by Kat at Kat's Novel Adventures. So I will link both of these channels down below. So the other reason why I want to stop at the 4 stories right now is because I want to dive deeply into these stories. So I am going to work through 4 stories this month. As I said, I've already read them, but I'm going to do some activities and some research around each one of those. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But this has become a new project for me. I'm going to take 4 stories a month over the course of the next few months until I've gotten to all 16 stories. I'm going to focus on 1 story a week so that every week I can dive deeply into the history, the culture, the folklore, and the mythology that inspired each story. So, here are just a couple of thematic considerations and essential questions that appear in this guide for A Phoenix First Must Burn. Power. Throughout history, Black women and girls have experienced involuntary removal of power and dominance, or forceful removal of personal power by society and individuals. Examine the ways each story attempts to explain the relationship between Black girls and women and personal, social, or institutional power. How does each protagonist grow into showing her personal power? How does she overcome oppression? Consider the ways power manifests externally and internally. I'm not going to read all these themes to you, but I just want to read a couple more to give you an idea about some of the exploration and the learning that I want to do. Another theme is spiritualism, magic, and mythology. Stories of mysticism and magic in the Western European canon historically depict witches and women as evil. As a consequence, magic and spiritualism are affiliated with evil, and women often take on that label by association. To contrast, the stories in this anthology include characters who use spirituality and magic as a power for rising up against oppression and for shaping the worlds they inhabit to their liking. There are witches who use their powers for good, not evil, and those who work to undo generational curses. Which stories capture elements of spiritualism that resemble those of the African diaspora, such as Santeria, Candomblé, I hope I'm saying that right, or voodoo? What elements of mythology or folklore belonging to the people of the African diaspora can you find in these stories? Consider fantastical and supernatural beasts that you may be familiar with from other stories, such as mermaids or sirens from Greek mythology and vampires of Eastern Europe. Which elements and entities are the same, which are different? So, as you can see, there is so much to explore and investigate, and I don't feel like 1 month is going to be enough time. But I do want to briefly talk about the 4 stories that I've read so far. But you're going to hear a lot more from me about these stories as the month goes on, as I dive deeper into the themes and questions that I just read to you. So, without giving any sort of spoilers about the first 4 stories, I will give you a brief summary and my thoughts about each of them. As I said, when I get deeper into it over the next, several months, there will be spoilers. But the first story is titled When Life Hands You a Lemon Fruit Bomb by Amiri. And this story focuses on the way language and terminology dehumanize and vilify the other, and how these false narratives and stereotypes break down when people actually sit together, have conversations, see the humanity in one another, and when people who are part of the group that has oppressed others, when those people, myself included, begin to confront the uncomfortable truths about our own biases and confront the false narratives that we've been taught. So it's really a story that meant a lot to what we see happening right now. I feel like this would be a perfect book to read anytime. Sorry. But what we're seeing happening right now and what has been happening over the course of history, what we see now is nothing new. And I just want to sit here as this white woman I don't even know if I have a place to say anything, but I want to learn more. I want to share this book. I want to front and center these authors and other creators. And so I'm just going to move on now to talk about the second story. So the second story is titled Gilded, and it is by Elizabeth Acevedo. This story is about intersectionality and risking your individual freedom to secure freedom for others. And it is about the strength and power of community. Again, relevant right now, very relevant. The third story is titled Wherein Abigail recalls her first death and subsequently her best life. And this is by Rebecca Rowanhorse. So this story is about a young woman who returns from death to exact vengeance on her abuser and oppressor, but it's also about reclaiming her life and finding the courage to start a new life. The fourth story is Rules of the Land by Alea Dawn Johnson. This is about a sea maiden's daughter. She's also the granddaughter of a goddess, and it is about her taking her place and finding her own power. Again, I just want to learn, and a lot of what I'm going to share from here on out is going to be from the authors themselves and from the actual history that I learned, because this is not my story to tell, but I want to learn and I want to share these resources so that other people can also take that step. So the next thing that I want to talk about is one more book that I won't talk a whole lot about because I was just on Isabel at Isabel Reads live show discussion for this, and I will link it down in the description box below. But it is For the Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. This book is about a young woman. Well, she's a little bit older, but she's reflecting back on when she was 13. She dared her little brother to go in this haunted house in their neighborhood. And when he went into the haunted house, the house ate him. And that's not a spoiler, it's on the back. And it is a dual timeline book where we're seeing her perspective as an adult trying to grapple with what happened. But we also get the backstory of when she was 13 and this event actually happened. It has a lot to say about grief, community, and found family. I gave it 4 stars. Be sure to check out that discussion link down below if you want to know more. Then the last couple of things I want to talk about are journaling. I am very, very new to junk journaling. I was inspired to junk journal by Kelsee at Kelsee's Nostalgic Life. And since then, I have listened to a couple of podcasts. I will link them down below. One of them is from the Feminist Book Club, and the other one is the Crafternoon podcast. So I will link them so you can get an idea about some of the other inspirations behind my junk journaling. I'm just finding it is a really easy and creative way for me to express my thoughts. It's also something that keeps my hands and my mind busy so I don't constantly doom scroll on my phone in the hopes of seeing some sort of justice being enacted where it needs to be enacted right now and has needed to be enacted for a long, long time. And it's just a way to express myself. So I'll show you a little bit of my junk journal. And then again, once I'm finished with the journal completely, you can let me know if you want a flip through video to see my complete journal. But I repurposed an old reading journal that I never really wrote in. And so this is my cover. We have some Frankenstein quotes. We have Poe. We have this little witchy figure here. And then on the back, I have Mary Shelley, a simmer pot, and just a few other things that I find appeal to me. So I won't show you all my pages, but I'll show you just a couple. This is my Halloween page because Halloween is my favorite season or season, lifestyle, whatever, you know what I mean. Then I have a page to represent the day I spent with my best friend. We went to eat, and then we went to Dollar Tree because both of us are a little bit broke, trying to have fun but save money. So I just did that. And then I just want to also show you really quickly my vampire page because I'm a little obsessed. Okay, a lot obsessed with vampires. So anyway, that junk journal is a way to set my, energy in a positive way. And then the next journal I want to talk about is a big step difference from this junk journal. And I want to first of all give you a content warning for aging parents, dying parents, parents with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, and other aspects of death and grief. Okay, so this journal is my grief journal, and I started writing it a couple of months ago. My mom, as some of you know, is in end-stage Parkinson's, and I'm a writer as well as a reader, and I just found that I just could not find the words to express my feelings. So I had reread my favorite classic, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, recently. And in my most recent reread, I annotated all of the passages that spoke about grief. So I started to think about writing a response to those passages about grief. And that's when I came up with this idea of a grief journal through a literary lens. So I have written down the quotes from Frankenstein, and I have a lot of other grief quotes in other books, but it's taken me a lot of time to get through this because it's painful and it's hard to write. But I have taken quotes and then written my response to those quotes through the ways that I'm feeling about losing my mom. And this has been painful, but it's also comforting, and it also gives me something tangible to do when I'm trying to process and deal with this long goodbye and this anticipatory grief of watching my mom literally waste away physically and mentally. It's also important that I'm doing this right now too, because next week, my sister, my dad, and I are going to be meeting with the funeral director to go ahead and plan my mom's funeral because we don't know exactly, of course, when she's going to pass away, but it is inevitable. It's coming. And this is something we want to take care of before it actually happens. So this is just another way to help me deal with and process the pain that I'm going through right now. I will not be sharing this journal with you. It's very personal and private. But I just wanted to talk about the fact that I am doing this grief journal to help me process this time, in case that may help anybody else who is going through something similar. I've also thought about starting a grief or rage journal to deal with what we see right now. I don't need to rehash it. You all know what's happening right now. So it's important that we find healthy ways to cope as we very rightfully feel rage and grief, and remain activist in all the ways that we can be activist, but we have to have that balance too. So I just want to say thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. I would love to know what you're reading. I would also love to know what you're journaling, or ways that you are working through dealing with what we're all collectively dealing with right now. I would also really appreciate it if you would hit like, subscribe, hit that bell so we can continue not only to talk about books, but to support each other in every way that we can. So I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you may be. Thank you for watching, and happy reading.